relationship with OSI. I feel like I need to talk first about the story of Orr Corporation. And that story begins in 1948. Clark Orr Sr. had just returned home from serving in World War II, and he was working as a traveling salesperson for a Chicago-based company. One night in a rooming house in North Carolina, he met a fellow salesperson named Jess, and a business relationship grew out of that conversation. Jess would sell asbestos gloves to Clark, and Clark would sell them to employees at electric utility companies. Clark borrowed $500 to buy a car, and he started his business selling safety equipment to employees. So in 1948, Orr Safety was born. Clark settled his family in new business in Louisville, Kentucky. And from there, he traveled around and talked to rural co-ops, manufacturers, oil companies, railroads, rock mines, other industries that had high risk for employee injuries. Now, this was in the days before OSHA, and Clark truly believed that business owners needed to provide protection for their employees. Many businesses realized that by doing so, they had a happier and a more productive workforce. So Clark would travel throughout the area, visiting all kinds of businesses and offering a variety of safety products, and his company began to grow. In 1952, Orr Safety opened a branch facility in Cincinnati, and 4 years later, they opened another branch in Indianapolis. In the late 1960s, Orr had two significant changes. In 1967, Clark's son, Bud, joined the company after finishing business school and serving in the military. About that time, another opportunity arose. Orr had a chance to enter the fire protection industry, and in 1971, Orr Protection Systems, also known as OPS, was established. OPS quickly established itself in the industry as one of America's first fire suppression companies. They were one of the early pioneers of the sale of Halon 1301, as well as Fenwal's explosive suppression line. It wasn't long before Orr became Fenwal's top distributor. Now, OPS has continued to grow and expand through the years. Today, OPS is headquartered in Louisville, Kentucky, and it has branch facilities in Cincinnati, Indianapolis, Atlanta, St. Louis, Tampa Bay, Chicago, Denver, Los Angeles, San Francisco, Phoenix, DC area. Now, in the early 90s, the fire suppression industry took a hit when halon's negative impact on the ozone was discovered. The industry itself contracted while new technologies were developed, but Orr Protection remained at the cutting edge by specializing in other systems used to protect mission-critical facilities, such as CO2, foam, water mist, and flame detection. And with the Clean Air Act amendment in 1990, Bud saw the changing environmental regulations as an opportunity for growth rather than a setback. In 1991, Orr expanded its mission to protect the environment with the creation of Inspection Logic. As they had been since the birth of Orr Safety, safety and technology were at the core of this new endeavor. A small team developed software to address the new clean air standards by detecting and identifying emission leaks that could ultimately damage the ozone. Today, Inspection Logic is the leader in leak detection and repair software. Now, in 2016, Clark Orr Jr. stepped into the role of chairman of Orr Corporation. Today, the passion for people and innovation that made Orr a thriving business in the 1950s continues to propel us into the future. And while the business landscape is ever changing, the core values that made Orr unique remain the same as they were when Mr. Orr made his first sale from the trunk of his Packard in 1948. That's a little about the history of Orr Protection Systems, but what does OPS do today? OPS has three types of operations. Installation jobs, where we design and install new fire suppression systems for facilities like data centers, power generation facilities, and other industrial and commercial places of business. They have service jobs, where we perform routine service inspections for companies with fire suppression systems to ensure that the systems that a company is relying on to protect their associates and their property will work as designed. And then we do emergency repair jobs, where we service equipment that's malfunctioning or it's reached its end of life. Now, I started working with Orr about 25 years ago in their leak detection and repair software business as a consultant. I was living in California at the time, and I owned my own business. My brother asked if we could help them move their software off of a dated platform onto something a little bit more conventional. And so my team worked on the conversion of the application from FoxPro to SQL Server. When Orr obtained the right people to take over the project, we transferred the project to their team, and they've been improving and selling the product ever since. About 2.5 years ago, my brother asked if I could help on another project. Orr Safety was attempting to implement an ERP system, and they'd run into many problems. The project had been operating for almost 4 years, and they wanted to know why. After a few weeks, I understood the problem, or I should say problems. We spent some time as an IT team, first reorganizing ourselves to make sure we had the right people in the right spots. And then we started to evaluate the situation that we were in. And we discovered several things that were pretty disturbing. First, we discovered that the original IT team that had been in place at the start of the project had not really understood the requirements for the organization. The IT team had assumed that they would be able to build out the customizations for the organization, but quickly discovered that they were unable to do so. The system that they had selected required us to have most of the programming done by companies that were partner companies to the original manufacturer. And we could play a part in the support of the product, but really not in the development of the product itself. We also found that the ongoing support costs were much more than we had originally anticipated. Furthermore, we required several bolt-on products, code modules that performed certain functions that we believed would make us more effective in our work. These modules were likewise configured so that we could play no role in their customization, development, or implementation. And again, we would have to pay for these modules in perpetuity, playing only a marginal support role in using the software. We realized that our new system would not be device independent. One of our current products is iOS dependent, so we wanted to migrate away from proprietary languages and devices. Ultimately, we decided to put an end to the ERP project. The inability to participate in the development and customization, the lack of openness in the software, and the fact that it would not free us from our dependency on specific devices combined with our financial calculations of the ongoing support costs made it a decision that, though costly, would have been substantially more damaging had we continued down that path. When I was asked to take over management of the IT department, I implemented some policies that had been emerging with me over the last few years, participating in development, governance, and implementation of software. These policies were: one, we would move as much as we could to cloud-based environments. The protections, governance, and portability of applications in the cloud made for a far safer environment than we could develop on our own. Second, we would employ open source software whenever possible. This would allow us to maintain our independence from vendors and be in control of our own future. And then third, we would employ the principles of lean in all of our development and operational workflows. A little over a year ago, we merged the field operations group with the IT team. We believed that this would create some synergies between the two departments and allow the IT team better access to their clients, the people who perform the work out in the field. We needed to make some dramatic changes in our systems because we had built a hybrid monster, merging 4 different best-in-class systems together and trying to keep everything together in sync with process automations. These automation routines were so cumbersome and unreliable that many of our associates had simply reverted to using Excel to manage the business. We were unable to perform accurate trending analysis in virtually all aspects of our business. And that was what led us to take a look at a new comprehensive solution. Employing the new policies, we began looking at open systems that could be deployed in the cloud. We also wanted to find a system that had a strong partner who could help us get a head start on not just customizations, but on teaching us how to take control over our own applications. We looked at a number of products and found several that interested us, but we kept coming back to a strangely named platform called Odoo. That the system was open was a significant plus, And we learned that several companies had deployed their system in the cloud. We were unwilling to commit to the environment without first building a proof of concept system. And we would find a suitable partner. We would give them a list of the requirements and see what they came up with. In looking for such a partner, we came across open source integrators. After a few discussions, we decided to engage OSI in developing our proof of concept. Now, I'll admit that at first I was unsure that the company could really pull this off. They seemed so casual and accepting of our goals, and I wondered if they really were as good as they appeared to be. We gave them the requirements for the proof of concept, and 90 days later, they scheduled our demonstration. During that time, their project manager stayed in constant contact with us, making sure that developers understood our requirements. Honestly, though, by the time of the demo, we knew that we had found a special team, and the proof of concept showed us that we could have a complex solution, one that we could support and customize ourselves with the assistance of OSI. It was a true partnership, and we're very excited about the solution we're deploying. Company-wide excitement is building for the deployment of the solution. In particular, OSI's expertise in field service companies has allowed us to build a fantastic product. OSI has done far more to help us with the customizations than we had hoped. And they helped us build our development pipeline, put us onto a Kubernetes environment in an AWS platform, and they employ thoughtful and new dispatching methods and provided us with education on how Odoo modules work, how we could develop our own solutions. More than that, they have provided us with a sounding board for our own workflow ideas, connecting us with companies and individuals who've been able to provide practical and useful advice.
Thanks, Bruce. I agree that the partnership between Orr and OSI is very special. I had a chance to advise many organizations in field services, including small, mid-size, and large companies such as FedEx, Sears, Schindler Elevator, or United States Services. Even these very large and experienced organizations often struggle with the optimization of workflows because they're not continuously involving key stakeholders throughout the entire implementation process. Or has been exceptional from the very beginning in bringing the different teams into needs analysis, design, and workflow implementation. The OR team invested substantial time and resources in validating every process. And in the picture, you can see OR top-level managers and subject matter experts from all departments and regions across the United States. They came together for 1 week to review the new system in depth and become trainers and advocates for their hundreds of users. Bruce's brother and CEO, Ray, was one of the many presenters during the week and clearly articulated the vision and importance for managing growth and quality services using Odoo. There are some implementation details I would like to talk about, and the system is all built on version 14 Odoo Enterprise, but it's augmented with a number of modules that are custom and also from the community from OCA. And that includes mobile integration and additional workflows. Over 150 users are targeted to use the system across multiple regions in the United States and across various departments. There are also, from the field services side, about 10 dispatchers that will have over 100 field services people to optimize, to organize, to schedule, to assign work to. Parts management is a critical part in this whole process as well, because the technicians have to have the parts they need to do specific work on site. So their houses are virtual warehouses, their home locations are virtual warehouses, and the trucks are warehouse components or locations that actually take the parts, and when they need to be replenished, we can use Odoo's functions to automatically restock based on minimum quantities. It's a pretty complex system in terms of recurring services, and that also includes recurring sales orders. So a service that gets done on a frequent basis, let's say quarterly, requires recurring work orders, and the work is, in Orr's case, very different from one visit to another. So we need to keep track of different types of work, different activities at every visit throughout the calendar year. And there's also a checklist of activities that every person needs to adhere to. They have to inspect the work and check off. So the work orders don't just have a single line item of things that they need to take care of. They have a whole checklist of things. And we can check mark those activities using field services. There's a multitude of service level agreements. As I mentioned, there's quarterly or every 6 months or annually visits that are required. And then there are also response times, of course, when there are particular services necessary. The very big component of this entire system that was implemented is also related to job costing and work in process billing, which means large construction projects, large projects for installations require substantial time to estimate and then track these estimates with actual dollars and labor in the system. So the job costing is a big part of field services as well for Orr. The key benefits that Orr has are related to consolidation of multiple business systems into one ERP, as Bruce already has mentioned. And with that, eliminating communication barriers between the different departments. And the more cost-effective solution is clearly based on a homogeneous system like Odoo instead of these various different systems that are just thrown together over time and cause a lot of problems with integration. So we overcame that, and on top of that, tailored and customized or specific workflows. The one goal was to minimize the number of steps in all of these workflows and make the system just more streamlined, less prone to problems, forgetting items or oversight, and make the whole process just more reliable and adhering to QA guidelines. And last but not least, it's scalable for growth because the system now allows us to replicate this in other areas and other regions very quickly. And the personal expertise that is usually needed to dispatch people, to schedule people, is much more automated throughout the system. And Odoo is helping everyone to just be more effective and also to bring on new people and scale. Well, this is our presentation. And with that, we're getting to the Q&A session where Bruce and I will get you answers to your questions.
Pacific time.
Good.
Good afternoon and good evening if you're in Europe. Welcome to this Q&A. I hope everyone is having a great time in Odoo experience so far. My name is Jose, and I'll be the interviewer for this Q&A. And first of all, joining us, please, did you the names? So joining us, it's
Yeah.
the part. Maybe you should introduce yourself. Just give me a hand over here.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. This is Wolfgang with Open Source Integrators, and handing over
Awesome.
to Bruce.
All right. So we're going to move into the Q&A.
All right. So
Thank you very much for the talk, and we are going to move into our first question. So how to integrate this solution with mobile solutions and field tracking? Is that possible with this solution?
yeah, I can take this question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. How to integrate it? So, of course, we have Odoo's mobile app that works really well for general use, but sometimes there is more specific integration needed in the field with existing tools. So this could be a Bluetooth connection to a tracking device or other things. The Odoo API allows us to actually have the ability to customize mobile applications. So that's one way, and there are some examples that's available in OCA. But also from a fleet perspective, vehicle tracking feeds can be put into the Odoo framework using the same API. And the good fleet providers that have tracking modules that don't just do mobile tracking on the phone, they allow you to track the black boxes, the tracking devices on the vehicle, and stream that information right into Odoo using the same API that I mentioned. So it's actually pretty straightforward from an IT perspective. But if you're a business, you may want to find a partner that can integrate that with you. And examples are available through OCA.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you for answering that question. What in terms of training the end user, do you have anything to? I know the probably as a possible challenge. Do you consider that as a? Would you explain us more about the training that you might do after the implementation?
Sure, I can take that. You can hear me okay?
Bruce is not showing. There you go.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me
Yes, perfectly.
Yes.
Okay. So training for us was a bit complicated because we have multiple, we have multiple locations, and the rollout is going to be staged. So we have to do some staging with the way that we do this, but we decided that what we wanted to do was to provide a number of videos. So we took some videos that Odoo has already produced. We also produced some OR specific videos that we put together. And then using our LMS, we're providing an opportunity for the individuals, all of the technicians and the back office personnel to be involved in going through that training exercise first. And then we're going to be going through it's kind of more like a town hall type session with them to walk through, do simulations, talk about how we would handle particular implementations for different projects that we'd be working on, and then at that point we feel like we'll be ready to release them. So, but the training was probably one of the more complex things to work out because we just had people all over the place, and then we also have 3 different areas that we focus on. One of them is in the area of new projects, which involves project management, installations, new materials, sometimes new building, new construction, and then we also do service work. So we come in and check existing equipment, and we also do emergency repairs. So if somebody's having problems with their equipment, we can go in and handle that. So we have 3 different types of businesses that involve different aspects of how they would be using the field service management software. So that was probably our most complex issue to work out, was how do we get 130, 140 technicians across the nation trained and ready to roll out all at the same time.
Thank you very much for your time. I mean, unfortunately, we are running out of time. So we are moving into our private Q&A. We're going to post the link below. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your presentation as well.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate your hosting all of this, and very excited about getting involved in all of this.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for joining us, and have a great evening.